Hey, it's Alex here with another episode of the Startup Secrets Show. Today I am joined by Dana Pharant. Dana, how are you today?
I am doing good. So happy to be here with you.
Oh, likewise. And as you can see, Dana's got exceptional style as opposed to my boring Zoom background. But the one thing, and that's a really good jump off point. Now, as we were chatting before a call, I started to learn a little bit about not only her experience where she's at now, but her working style and how she is as a person. So entrepreneurship is for everyone. And I want to start off by highlighting, one of Dana's first experiences in entrepreneurship. Do you mind starting off by sharing with the audience that first foray while you were in college there?
Yeah. It's funny. I don't tend to think of it as an entrepreneurial venture because it was just a little side hustle, little thing I was doing. But so I tend to be ADD in the way I process and the way my brain works. So I work better by being distracted with my hands, and then I can actually focus on what the teacher is saying. So I started creating these hair scrunchies. Now, back in the early 90s, hair scrunchies were all the rage. And so I was mass producing these hair scrunchies. And I had the whole rhythm going. I was really fast at sewing them and then hand sewing them together. That was the hand sewing I would do in class. And, I got it down to that it would cost me 50 cents to make them. And then I would sell them for $5. And that actually funded a big part of, whether it was my extra money or, whatever, but it was a big contribution to funding my college education. Plus, it actually allowed me to have better grades because it gave me something to focus on. From the outside, I had some people who thought that I was disrespectful and I wasn't paying attention, but it actually allowed me to pay better attention because that's how my brain works. It's just it's a higher function.
And I love that. I didn't plan this before, but I want to just say that this, at the jump, right? Everyone in entrepreneurship has a space, but you have to find your own. And let me give you an example. As I was speaking to Dana before, I believe, I feel like, you can tell me the truth. You can work with music on in the background and help you focus.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, it would drive me nuts. But we too often have limiting beliefs around the people who we might have seen as be successful and want to do exactly like them. When reality is everyone has to work a little bit differently. And that's why I'd love to have Dana on today. So we're going to talk about that first step there. But let's talk about, your experience after college. Once you, matriculated through, what happened next in your journey?
Okay, so I was in college to become a massage therapist, and I did that. I was very successful as a massage therapist, built up a waiting list in 6 months, and then grew to having 2 massage therapy clinics, and then added on a massage supply outlet store. So it just kept growing, and we grew that up to 7-figure mark, and we had 6 staff and things were going great. And then I want to, share my little failure story for everybody is that in 2012, so we opened in 1999. And then in 2012, we hit a wall, we hit a bankruptcy. There were things that happened that were outside of our control. Sales were good, but we had an inventory control issue. And then we had a few other issues that were going on. And so we ended up facing a bankruptcy. We tried to avoid it, but then again, we were hit over and over again with things outside of our control, people breaking into our merchant account, stealing thousands of dollars, customers going, belly up and not paying their tens of thousands of dollars bill. That really cripples a company very quickly because all of a sudden we had no cash flow. And so we did a bankruptcy. I did what they call a consumer proposal. And against my lawyer's advice, I actually restructured the business, kept it open, but really streamlined it. So we took and cut all the things that weren't profitable, all the things that were causing us problems, and streamlined it down, mostly down to the private label that we had. And if I didn't have a private label brand, honestly, I, would have had to just shut the door and walk away and, call it quits. But because of that private label brand, and because I had profit margins inside of that, I was very quickly, like within a couple of months, was able to turn that business around from losing $10,000 a month to profiting $5,000 a month. because of that, because of all of those pieces in place. Now, so much work. Oh my God. But also so many gifts. I worked my butt off during that time. I really did. Those were crazy days.
And those are probably some of the days you look back on as I can't say how you felt about it, but super formative, right? I'm sure there's a lot of growth in that.
Oh my goodness. I learned a lot. And I would say one of the biggest things, and I want to share this for everyone listening, is that finding out how much of a BS system the whole money racket is was one of the biggest gifts. Understanding that, the way that I thought things were working, the way that, things look like on the surface, you have to do it this way, that the creditors are after you and then you have to pay. And yet when you find out what's behind the scenes and what's really true, it's eye-opening. And then the other really big shift, which I know I mentioned to you on our chat ahead of time, was that, losing $500,000 in that business has given me the perspective that now, if I make a bad choice and I lose $1,000, I'm like, it's $1,000. Like, that's chump change. Like, I'm not going to get upset until we get up to about 10 grand, it's really not, it's not a big deal. So I'm willing to take a lot more risks. And I would say that's been such a big gift, because that is entrepreneurship. We do need to take those risks. And no, not everything works out. Some things are utter failures. They flop, but the ones that go make up for the failures. It's a really remarkable piece, and it's really shifted my entire outlook on money and the way that the money game is played, and understanding all of that.
My goodness, I love that there, because a lot of times I'm a train of thought person. And so when I'm involved in that, it's like the specifics, like how did exactly this and this. And so one piece that you mentioned there, it's like when there's that trouble, like the collections are coming and this, that, and the other. I want to remind the audience of a credit man, Michael. We had an interview with him. You don't actually have to, when Equifax, Experian are on you for this and that, let's say there's no rules, but the rules are, so many people are used to working a job. It's safe, secure. Here's how we do things at our job. It doesn't really matter if I get this done today, as long as I'm at work today. when the things, you're almost ascribing things to things that don't really have value. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're in that fire, when you learn what it actually takes to make money, lose money, what's actually valuable, that's how you go from losing $10,000 a month, like Dana had experience, to making $5,000. And I love to hear that, that high level knowledge here, instead of the weeds, especially around, once you have that belief in yourself, like, hey, I crashed and burned, but then I got back up. Mm-hmm. You'll never lose that. And so I don't want to pivot too much away from entrepreneurship, but how has that changed your life, like beyond like the money and like your relationships or how you view yourself? Has it improved your quality of life? Like that belief system there?
I think in everything. Now, for me, just as a preface, I treat business like a personal development extreme sport. So everything, right? I mean, that is entrepreneurship. People should just, if you haven't gotten into business at this point, understand that it is the thing that will challenge you the most, other than having children. And it will also give you tremendous growth if you lean in, if you actually allow yourself to have that experience. So yes, how I handle all of money has really changed. I don't take it as seriously. I see the bigger picture. I've been able to drop into, I'm very much from the spiritual perspective of, universe, God, that we're all one, that kind of idea. And also that there's an element where money's not real. We agree what money is, but money is not real. And the more we go digital, completely digital, the less real money is. I mean, what is money, right? You have a debit card and you swipe it, and maybe there's funds, maybe there isn't, but that could all change just because of computer coding. So it's not real. It is all an agreed upon system. And in that, for me, is stepping out of the dynamics where, it's really easy to get into making myself wrong or making my value based on my net worth or how much I have in my bank account. All of those are really, they're lies. They're lies that we tell ourselves that, are tempting, extremely tempting to get all caught up in. And granted, I have been there. I know what that's like, but it's an ugly mess that's not required. And so stepping out of that whole money tanglement set me on more of a journey to actually, dive into more of the spiritual side of things, more of the looking at the bigger picture, looking at, life from a more, maybe call it shamanic perspective of, what is life? What are we here for? I know that's really esoteric to go from our startup, tips and tricks, but it is all connected. When you have a deeper sense of who you are, it's easier to step out and play with your business. And you talk to anybody who's been successful, like the ones who are super successful without being stressed out are the ones that play. They're like, oh, I had this idea. It was kind of fun. And I just pursued it. And then it became a raging success. Right?
Yes.
Because even if you don't make a ton of money, if you're playing, at least you're having fun, which is huge.
And so hearing that, play with your business, people might, what? That's scary. You got some money. But you think athletes or sports entertainers, like they're playing, like their career looks fun, right? Why can't everyone be like that? Well, it's just because most people have not say most, but a lot of people have accepted roles and positions that don't use their talents to the highest ability. So I want to not get too far off from there. Sorry.
Okay.
Journey, right? Your spiritual journey, your next step. So after you found success with that business, what came next? You taking those skills. What was next in that journey?
Okay, so we need to talk about concurrent to building that business. I was also exploring in my personal life the world of kink, which is BDSM, think 50 Shades of Grey. And I was a dominatrix in my personal life. And so when I got the business, the massage supply outlet turned around, profitable, put somebody else in place to run it again, then I was free to get started with coaching. And the coaching work that I do is this helping people to step into what I call their inner dominatrix, which is not gender defined, so you don't have to be a woman in order to do this, but it is about that embodiment of holding the power with being able to lead, being willing to really take the lead and hold that position in a way that moves the business forward. So that's really my work now. That's my love. I love, working with business owners who are finding that it's the internal game that's really keeping them stuck. I mean, we can read a book, we can take an online course, and that can teach us what we need to know. But so many of us don't actually implement because of what is getting in the way. What is the mental chatter, and getting out of touch with who we really are. Those are the things that I see keep business owners really stuck. The minutia and the logistics, those are just logistics. Once you have the mindset, you can put all of those things in place, or hire somebody, even better, hire somebody to do the logistics.
I like to hear that, because when you talk about the specifics, tactics, you can read those in books and you can try them on your own. But to really, that's why I like the high level view and the sharing that real experience of bankruptcy and like really losing it. Because once you break through that mental barrier and you see that there's as much as you want or as little as you want in this world, you can get it.
Yeah, it is that simple, and yet it takes a deconditioning. It never
feels like that until you do it.
It doesn't feel like that, but it doesn't feel easy because there's a conditioning for life to be hard, and so we have to decondition ourselves. So, one other piece from my background is that I grew up in a cult, and so there was intense brainwashing. So I understand on a deep level what it takes to decondition from things that have been imprinted. And all of us have that to some degree. Maybe, you probably didn't grow up in a cult, hopefully not. But you did grow up.
Capitalism.
right? Called capitalism. Exactly. So, you have imprinting from media, from social media, from, schools. There's a whole nother cult piece. But we have that. And so we need to rewire the brain in order to make space for new possibilities. So it's easy, but it's not necessarily, well, it's simple, but not easy. That's what the phrase is. Yeah.
But not easy.
Yeah.
I love that. And so let's talk about living simply, like eliminating things that don't need to be in place. Because I remember right at the beginning of our call there, you mentioned you were selling all your belongings, going
Yes.
across North America. I'd love to hear more about that and the journey what you're looking to get out of it and what you're going into it with.
Oh my goodness. So I'm in what I call a gap year. So I'm currently getting divorced, and so I'm between husbands. This is my gap year. And I've decided to make use of this and go out and wander. It's like a walkabout, only with a car and with a lot of stuff that'll fit in my car. But I don't have a lot of plans. I have a very loose master plan of a couple places that I want to get to, but otherwise I'm following my nudges. I'm following my intuition, and I'm going where I'm guided to go. And, I have my laptop. So all of my work has been virtual for the last 5 years. I still going to be working with clients, but at the core of it, it is this freedom to just take off. And part of that freedom means that I need to let go of the whole owning a house and having furniture and having a plan to come back to. And I have 2 cats that I've had to rehome. I've got one has found a lovely new home, and I'm working on the second one. So it's a lot to process. It is a lot to go through. But like I said, business is an extreme personal development program.
And I keep saying I love, but I really do love the unique thinking you're putting here. And not just around like, hey, I'm going to go out and do this thing I'm going to do, but the thinking around it, right? So the way you approach business, let me ask you this. Do you feel like there are things that you got from your journey in entrepreneurship that obviously like you might not have gotten elsewhere, but that you needed and you might have not been able to get in other parts of your life, but that development was also character, and like you needed these things to grow? Like I'm not sure how I'm asking this correctly.
Well, I think where I would go with that is that when you're running a business and you need to make money, it provides a certain, cattle prod behind you to make sure that you keep moving forward. You either move forward or you fall flat on your face. And so I think that real strong cattle prod to make sure that you keep moving forward is the impetus to grow, or at least has been in my experience. I can't speak for everyone, but I think that definite do or die lets you lean into it in a way that you wouldn't otherwise, because we as human beings, we have this natural propensity to want to stay safe. And unfortunately, staying safe also gets translated in the brain as same. And then stuck is the next thing that happens when you say the same too long. So we often need a cattle prod, whether it is, hiring a coach to poke you or having something painful happen in your business to make you grow, make you stretch. So all of life is like that, but particularly business is there isn't the option, I think.
I like that answer.
Thank
and I
you.
want to speak to my experience over there too, before I pivot back. When you have that experience, not just the failure, but also the successes, because eventually you do have successes, right? Like it has to happen, or else you're just, you're just give up, but never give up. Because eventually you do have those successes, and for the rest of your life, you'll always be able to say, "But I made this one work." So I believe if I just keep trying and working and doing all the stuff that worked not before, but because you can't really replicate systems for new problems. But the first time we tried them, they were new systems, right? So I'll give you the confidence to try new things, and that growth does compound. So when we come back and think about your journey here and your next, goals, visions, you're going to be out on the road for, say, a year here. What is not a goal, but maybe something, we check back in a year and say, this is something you're really looking for. It doesn't have to be something like, hey, I'm going to do this. It can just be kind of maybe esoteric, ethereal, some feeling or something you're searching for.
It's kind of a big question, and some of it is very personal that I don't want to get into. But basically, I think that the next year is really for me leaning into my spiritual growth and the dedication that I have to say, okay, I'm living from a path of surrender and trusting. And so there's a bit of an element of, I'm going to prove to the world that this stuff that I teach really does work when you drop into it 100%. I have clients who have had good success with it on a part-time basis. I wouldn't say they do it as extreme as I am, but to really lean into it. And the fact that we can really drop in and have the universe or God or source or however you want to call it support us, not just emotionally, not just like, oh, okay, I have enough toilet paper in my bathroom, but support us in a way that we have the abundance that we like, that we want. So my big ask, on a financial level is I'm going away with the money from the house and I want to come back with 4 times as much. And that's my ask to the universe. So if you want to check back in a year,
put it out there.
Put it out there.
Well, that's gonna title the episode, 4 times as much.
4 times as much.
What is the reason? Gotta listen.
Yeah.
I love that. And so as we wrap up here, I want to give you an opportunity. I want to say this too. The most successful advice I've ever gotten, or the most useful, have been from people like yourself who have done it, right? Like you said, you're going to live the proof of what you're telling the people you're working with, right? And so I love that more than anything. Experience is what raises the quality of life for whether it's me or other people, because it just saves you so many mistakes. And so as we do wrap up here, is there a piece of advice or a piece of experience that might have to be the most important from your life, but one that you might have on your mind or recently that you can kind of share a story to, for our audience to kind of pull some value from?
I'd say, a big piece has really been coming up for people lately is, and it's so poignant for me right now, is this idea that, can I really trust? Can I really trust that it will come in? If I ask, because what I see for a lot of people is that, they put out this ask, they want to grow their business to a certain level, but then slip into hustle and grind because they're not trusting. And so they think that the only way to get it is if I work hard enough. And this dynamic of being willing to receive, being willing to let things come in because you were open. Now, it does not mean you do not do any work. You still need to follow the nudges. And that's my journey this year is I'm following the nudges. I'm following those pieces. I'm saying, okay, here's my ask. Show me where to go. Show me, where I need to show up, how I need to work. And it is doing that as opposed to being in your head. And so what I want to have people walk away with from this, if you're listening, is that what if you really could trust? What if you really could trust that it is possible? And to make space for that. Maybe it's not going to land today. Maybe it'll take 10 years before you really trust. But to make space for that to be an incremental thing that is growing, and keep in mind of like compound interest kind of growing, the penny that doubles every day for 30 days. And you have 1 million pennies. Or $1 million. Sorry, it's not 1 million pennies. It's $1 million. It's even better. You have $1 million at the end of 30 days. Like that kind of thing. Like, what if you let that grow? So that's what I want to leave for a possibility for people.
Oh, I'm taking notes on this myself. You know what I'm saying? So instead of 4X, that's going to be the title. Follow the nudges.
Follow the nudges.
Well, Dan, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. This has been another episode of the Startup Secret Show. My name is Alex Coubet. Until next time.